There are seasons that we realize we need to take a step back and take a look at what this season has been teaching us. Sometimes it's an intense season of just a couple weeks, sometimes it's a couple months, sometimes it's a couple years. But as entrepreneurship grows us and moves us and challenges us in hard and good ways, it's important to take a step back and ask, what lessons am I learning? Or what lessons am I needing to learn? And what am I going to do with those lessons? I need to acknowledge that I have grown, I have changed, that this is a lesson that I need to learn, and it might take me a while to learn it. So, I wanted to share with you today 4 lessons that I feel like I'm learning from the business trenches and lessons that I needed to learn. Some were surprising, and some were just really good reminders to get back to basics a little bit and revisit what's working, what's not, and grow from that. Hello there, and welcome to the Selah Entrepreneur Podcast, where we take a look at doing online business a little bit differently for women over 50. The goal here of each episode is to help women like you find the clarity you need to confidently redesign your business or make tweaks or make a few pivots so that it aligns with your values and your purpose. And underlying all that, doing it with a lot less stress in the process. So if you are ready to design a business that fits you in this current season of life you're in, then let's dive into today's episode and ask, what lessons are you learning? What lessons am I learning about business and entrepreneurship in this current season we're in? The first lesson I want to share with you is this idea of having a fixed versus growth mindset. Now, this was a lesson that did take me by surprise. I've never considered myself to have a fixed mindset. But as I looked at some of the areas of my business that weren't working, that I felt like were harder than they should be, I started getting this idea of, do I think I can change this? Do I believe I can? Do I have the confidence that I can go in and make some changes and that my business will be different? And I had to honestly answer and say, you know what? In a few areas, no, I don't know that I can. I don't feel like I can. I don't believe that I can. And as I started doing some research on this idea, the thing that kept coming up over and over again was that that is an indication of a fixed mindset. And I thought, wait a minute, no, I love growing, I love learning. But there are times I think that when we are in tough seasons, that when we have our own health issues, when we're dealing with caregiving, when we're dealing with a difficult season of business, that we can get stuck in survival mode, that we're just trying to get through the day, and that we're trying to do everything we can in our power to stay in control of what's right in front of us and not letting the world crash in and make things even harder. And so a lot of times I think that survival mode kicks us into a fixed mindset. Now, I am not an expert at fixed versus growth mindset. This is what I've been discovering about myself. And in conversations with a few other women, I've seen a similar trend or a similar, oh, yeah, I get that. So when our brains get filled with doubt and confusion because that current season is hard, a lot of times we do get stuck in that fixed mindset and we think that we do not have the ability, we don't have the control to make changes in our business. That needs to change. And that's something I'm acknowledging in my own business, in my own business habits and practices and beliefs, is that I need to learn how to change and think about myself in a way that is someone who can change. And that I can make positive changes and grow my business and make some changes in my business and fix the areas that aren't working. And so that has led to lesson number 2, which is sometimes you got to start with the small goals, because in looking at having a growth mindset and what does it take to change from a fixed to a growth mindset and move into this hopefully newer, easier season than the difficult season that I've been passing through, then you got to realize that life is still going to get lifey. And even though we feel like we should just give up on our goals or look at them half-heartedly and go, well, if they happen, they happen. Great. Better luck next time. And sometimes we get to the point where we're going, I don't have time to set goals and I don't believe I can even reach these goals. So why bother? What I've realized that for me, I need to set some smaller goals. I need to look at the areas that aren't working in my business and set some smaller, doable goals. Get some of those quick wins. One, to build momentum, but maybe also to rebuild some of that self-confidence that has taken a hit. and start seeing myself as somebody who can set a goal, reach it, and go for it, and then move on. Sometimes that's all we need is that we need to take action that's going to dispel that idea that we're stuck, and we can start setting smaller goals, take action on them, and see that we're reaching them and going, okay, okay, I can do this. And then we start setting a little bit bigger goal or more difficult goal, or we start working on changing our mindset and how we're thinking. So sometimes you got to go with the smaller goals, and that is okay. And that leads to lesson number 3 that I've been learning, and reminding myself that it's okay to be a beginner. It's okay that I'm still a work in progress, even as a 50 plus entrepreneur. So many times we think I should have this figured out, that whatever your it is, shouldn't be so hard. I should have learned this lesson already. I'm too old to learn something new or change my mind. We forget to give ourselves permissions to be beginners, even in our 50s or in our 60s or in our 70s. And thank goodness we can still learn, because boy, would life be boring if we didn't have new lessons to learn, new skills to learn, more clarity in about our business to discover, more exciting moments in our business that we are allowed to pursue and we get to pursue. But as women who get stuck in a fixed mindset, and we think that we can't start, or that our goals are feeling so big and ginormous that there's no way we should even bother with them. A question I'd like you to ask yourself is that a reality? Is that something you're telling yourself? Is that possibly expecting yourself to be perfect right out of the gate? And, you know, none of us are. I'm having to remind myself of that as well, that it's okay to be a beginner, and it's okay to be in progress, even as somebody who's been in business for 16 years, over 16 years now, almost 17. It's okay that I'm still a work in progress, that I have lessons to learn. It's okay that I still have skills that I want to explore and strengthen. There's things I want to try next in my business and figure out how does it fit in. And then also with that, because you are a work in progress, because sometimes you are a beginner again, give yourself the grace that life is going to get lifey. Life is going to get hard. Life is going to be fun. Life is going to be busy. Life is going to be challenging. But you are still learning important lessons, and that's okay to give yourself the time to acknowledge that. Give yourself grace. You know what? I needed to learn that, and keep moving forward. And this leads to lesson number 4. And this has been an important reminder for myself, because when we do get stuck in that fixed mindset, when we feel like we can't make changes, when we forget that we are a work in progress and that we don't like to be beginners, and that we're needing to kind of restart maybe a little bit by setting more smaller attainable goals and finding some traction to move forward. It's hard to remember that business is an experiment. It's not set in stone. It's not one and done. There's always more to learn. And as you're learning and as you're growing, it doesn't always mean big, huge pivots or these lightning bolt aha moments that are life changing. Sometimes it's just a small pivot in a new direction. It's a change in perspective, or it's time to develop a new habit. It's so easy for us to look at these decisions in front of us that are impacting our business, and we can add so much weight to the significance of that decision and the possible result. But with the weight that we put on it is hard. And a lot of times we're putting it on there. It's nobody else. We're putting so much pressure on making the right decision. And if you saw me, you see me using air quotes. What if there's not a right decision? What if there are some great options in front of you, and it's just picking one and going for it and trying it out and seeing it as an experiment? What if, as you're learning to think of yourself with a growth mindset and practice that growth mindset, you're asking, how can this work? How do I know it's not going to work if I don't try? And reminding yourself that you can always pivot, tweak, and adjust. And if needed, remember this is not set in stone. Sometimes we do need to remind ourselves that the decision that's in front of us, whether it's to take a class, whether it's to hire a coach, whether it's to explore a new product or service, it's not set in stone. It's okay. So all of this, again, is circling back to the idea of moving from a fixed to a growth mindset, and that we are not limited in what we can and can't do. A lot of times we are putting that on ourselves and our own expectations of what we should be able to do or not do, and that's us putting that pressure on us or those limitations on us. That's not reality. Lessons like these four, for me in my experience, is never ending. There is always more to learn. There is more skills. There's different mindsets that I need to have refreshed or adjusted or changed in order to develop that business, to always look at my business through the lens of how can this work? Is it aligning with my values? Is it aligning with my faith? Is it allowing me to be present with my family when it's an intense caregiving season? Is it allowing me to be with family, or am I in my office too long? Is it allowing me to go out and walk my dog when she wants to go out? Or we're in the rainy season, there's a sun break. Can we go out right now and get a walk? Or am I tied to my desk? So these four lessons for me have been very pivotal in the last several months, but especially in the last couple of weeks. As we're closing up here, I'd like to give you a few journaling prompts to consider. Ask yourself, do you have a fixed or a growth mindset, and why? And again, a fixed mindset says that I do not have the ability, the skill, the confidence that I can make an attempt to make a change, but I really can't. Nothing's going to happen. Versus a growth mindset that says I can do that. I can make changes. I can evaluate. I can adjust. I can change and make a positive change in my business. And take that a step further. I was discovering for myself there are some areas in my business I'm quite confident in. I have a growth mindset. There were a few key issues, though, that I realized I was stuck in a fixed mindset. And so I've been exploring why and taking steps to move out of that fixed mindset and asking those questions. How can this work? I don't know. I haven't tried. What can I tweak and work on? And if I have tried it, what needs to be pivoted or what needs to be adjusted? Or is it time to let it go? Another prompt I'd like you to consider is, do you need big, audacious goals in this season? Do you need to go whole hog on these goals that by the end of the year? And at the time of this recording, we're coming right up to Thanksgiving. So there's not a ton of time left in 2024. But do you need big, huge goals, or do you need smaller ones? Do you need to finish the year well with gentler, smaller goals that will really help you finish the year with confidence and excitement that you did meet some goals? But if you do need those bigger ones, go for it. Either answer is okay. Another question to ask yourself is, do you expect perfection of yourself, or is it okay to acknowledge the fact that you are a work in progress? Can you admit that in this area of your business, you are a beginner? And if you can't, ask yourself why. And then finally, are there any decisions that you are putting off because they feel so big and heavy? Ask yourself, is this a really life-changing decision? Are you putting undue pressure on that decision? So ask yourself some of these, and some of these are going to give you some aha moments. Some of these are going to go, this really doesn't apply to me. And some of them you're going to need to sit with for a little bit. After you've gone through some of these prompts, I would encourage you to sit back and look at the last few months, look at this year, and ask, what are some of the lessons that I am learning in my business? What are the things that I need to acknowledge that these are lessons that are still in progress and that you are still going through the learning process and understanding it and realizing what changes you may or may not need to make. And I would love to hear what lessons you are learning. I would love to hear what is challenging in your business, or what is a lesson you did learn and you're so glad you learned it and business feels different. Reach out to me through Instagram. You can send me a direct message there, or you can reach me through my website at selahstudios.co. This podcast is meant to encourage you in your business and entrepreneurial journey. And if you have found this episode helpful, or if you've received an aha moment today, I'd really like to ask you a favor. Could you scroll down to your podcast player and click on that leave a review link and rate the podcast? And if you have a few more seconds, write a written review. It can take you less than 30 seconds to do this. And doing that really does help the podcast Podcasts are found by ratings and reviews, and I would love to get in touch with other women who could use this encouragement and use the tips that shared here in this podcast to help them design a business that fits them. Thank you for joining me today. Let's keep moving forward and creating a business simply and sustainably so that you can steward your gifts, your calling, and your business well.